I voted for Trump 3 times, but then I also can understand certain people's opinion about some of the things that he says, or people in our party who are seen as quote unquote, the spotlight leaders of our party. When folks see folks that look like them, they'll want to like maybe engage more, right? Because it's like, okay, well, you look like me, so that maybe you can relate to where I am in life and meet me where I am on the conversation, right? Because it's not necessarily, everyone's not going to speak to you at policy level, right? They want to talk about what we call it kitchen table conversations of, hey, these bills. So that's a good thing and a bad thing, right? It's made citizens become more involved, which is always what the ideal thing is for government. But then it's also not that good because they're not necessarily reading and coming to an understanding of how the process works on different levels. Like the federal process is a lot different than your local process, right? Your city council's budget, your county commission's budget, your state budget, versus the federal budget, right? Which we're at a standstill on. So all of those processes are different and require different pieces working together.
Hi, everyone. I'm Alexis Voss, and this is your favorite Black Lobbyist podcast. Today, I have with me Deanna Harris, partner at Midnight Rider Consulting, and good friend of mine, workout partner. Shout out to the Renaissance Athletics. Shout out, Nick.
All right.
But yeah, so we're going to have a really great conversation today. I'm super excited. I hope y'all are too. She's amazing. And I think she's also going to give us a great perspective on just what's happening in today's, political climate, but also too, she's a contract lobbyist. So that also would give you more of an insight of just what a contract lobbyist is. Because I know, and I'm pretty sure you get all the time by family and friends, like, what do you do? And what is that? And you tell them all the time, they still don't know what you do.
Not at all.
So, let's go ahead and get into it. But thank you so
course.
much for joining me.
Yeah,
I really appreciate it.
it's my pleasure. Happy to be here.
Thank you. So before we get into the conversation, I'll definitely say I want you to kind of tell the people or even me too, like, who is Deanna? And just kind of give us a little backstory of just who you are and how you get here.
Yeah, so again, Deanna Harris, working with Midnight Rider Consulting. So that I partner with former Senator Jeff Mullis, and he used to be our rules chairman, and so now he done jumped onto the dark side. So we've been hanging out and having a good time exploring the lobbying world. So I've been lobbying for 10 years now, coming up on my 11th session, which is really kind of like...
That's amazing.
Yikes.
No, that's first time. We got a little applause in there. That is amazing.
Yeah. So that's been fun. I'm from Cleveland, Ohio. I went to college at Florida State in Tallahassee. And so, I still, by way of FAMU, so I hung out with FAMU folks. So good portion of my life. I came up to Atlanta afterwards. Like most of us migrate up north a little bit. And just been here ever since. So I started out in Atlanta doing real estate. And my path came into politics because we had some issues with real estate. A lot of red tape initially back in of course, the market crashed in 2008. And so then 2010, a lot of things changed. And so a lot of red tape. So that made me inquire with the Real Estate Commission and different people who regulated that industry. And that just kind of put me down a rabbit hole of information when it came to politics and the lay of the land with everything, right? Because you never really when you work every day, you don't have the time to get into that type of stuff, especially when something goes wrong. Most people just kind of throw their hands up and move on, right? I didn't do that.
Yeah.
And so from there, with going down that rabbit hole, I was living in Smyrna. Then I started learning and signing up and doing all these different groups and stuff like that. Learned that the mayor was the mayor for 34 years, and then before him, it was his dad.
Yeah.
And so I just got involved. I started out, I didn't necessarily commit to a party, right, because my family isn't extremely political at all. So I started off kind of way in both parties.
Yeah.
Hey, I went to some Democrat stuff, and I went to some Republican stuff to see how it was. And I ended up, latching more onto the conservative side. And so I worked a lot of campaigns. I did a lot of party politics. I used to be the vice chair of the Cobb Republican Party. I was chair of the Young Republicans in Cobb County.
Awesome.
I've even served on like the state Young Republicans board and a number of different kind of like party politics things. And that led me to work on a lot of campaigns, including our current governor when he first ran. So, you know, that's kind of like how it started. And so when I first got involved in the party politics, you know, the Cobb County wanted to put a candidate up against every single incumbent. So I was living in Smyrna. I ran in District 41 as for a House member. And so I won my primary. I had like a primary.
Wow. Oh, dang.
I know. I raised about $50,000.
Dang, okay.
So that required me to go to a lot of stuff
Yeah.
and talk to a lot of folks I didn't know. And it was a brand new experience, but I had been doing it anyways because as a real estate agent and working in real estate, you do that all the time, right? So it's kind of had a background in it. And so I lost a general, which was to be expected because it was a blue area. The votes just weren't there, but it kind of put me out there. And then one of the companies that had endorsed me and they asked me, well, Deanna, you know so many people and you're cool with all of the delegation and all the school boards. Why don't you be our lobbyist? I was like, hold on. I don't know what that is. So I went and talked to one of my good friends that I became really close with, Steve Butler. And, you know, I was like, hey, what do you do? Tell me about it. How can I do it? And so he just like took me through the ropes and, you know, took me under his wing a bit and showed me around, and here I am. So
I love all about your story because it shows that, one, it wasn't linear, right? And I think people have this idea because people ask, I'm pretty sure you get all the time, how did you get into lobbying? How did you? And you're like, I don't even know, right? And I love because, you know, you're a part of Black Girl Lobby, and so I love talking to my peers and my friends and just seeing like, what is their story, right? Like, how did you get into it? So I'm always intrigued in how we just kind of get into this. And so that is so interesting that you started in real estate, right? Completely not political at all. You say you came from a family that wasn't political, and then you just somehow found your way into the space. And I really love that. And also too, I love that you talked about how the skills were transferable. So first of all, running for office is not an easy feat. And for you to have raised $50,000, which is, that's a lot. You know, that's a lot of money. And have a primary, I mean, that's awesome. And I did not know that about you. So I learned a lot just from these like 2 minutes. So I really appreciate you for sharing that.
It was a fun experience though. I mean, it's a lot of hard work. I lost a lot of weight. You know, Nick would have been proud because when you knocking on doors, you get that cardio in.
What? Working a campaign, y'all, let me tell you, for me, campaign life is not it. And I feel like we all kind of start out that way in the political realm. Like, you know, that's the boots in the ground work, right? And so I feel like you have to have a certain personality and work ethic. Because I know when I worked on it, there is a nonstop, like
disrespectful,
like, right?
You
work 25/8
kids for sure,
and knocking on doors. I was like, this ain't for me. So first off, commend you for that. But no, you. It's funny because when I did the campaign work, I came out looking like a crackhead. Like I can't. So when you say you lost weight, I get that.
Skinny. I was like, ooh. Yeah. I look at pictures on my phone. I was like, oh, that was so nice.
It was so nice. Right. Like I said, Nick would have been so proud, child. Now we over here trying to unbig our back, just dying and fighting for our lives in that gym. But no, shout out to Nick. He's dope. He's a good trainer. I did want to kind of get into, you know, because I love how you also said that you didn't really start out on either side, right? Like, because again, like, and I think that's great because you were open, right? And you were open to learning and you just kind of see what works and fits for me. Right. So, you know, I would say kind of like, you know, how did your personal values shape that decision for you to where, you know, that was where you said this is more for me compared to the the other side?
Well, being in real estate, you have more of like an entrepreneurial spirit, right? So it's a get out there and go, and kind of like being a business owner for the most part, you are. And I felt some of those attributes with the party. So like just different things that are in the belief system of the party, and different ideals and policies and interests that they showed me, and I was like, okay, that makes more sense. It's more logical. It's not extremely emotional. And so I kind of latched on to that more than whereas like more liberal and Democrat side, it was very emotional, very I'll say nonprofit like.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Which I have a love for, and I respect it, and it's necessary, right? It brings balance. I think we lost the balance because it's become so much in the spotlight with like social media and different people kind of like latching on and giving, opinions that aren't asked for, unwanted opinions.
All the time.
So
all the time.
yeah, so like I think that makes it more difficult and puts a spotlight and make it a movie for folks, especially our federal folks. And I guess they like it. You know what I mean? Where it's like theatrical. I'll call it that. Yeah. You know what I mean? So
it's my entertainment. It's my reality TV.
And that has deterred us from even having the two-party system, right? On where you have checks and balances on thought and opinion. So it's just, I mean, hey, that's just what we have to work with nowadays. Hopefully it'll like mellow out. I was just kind of having a conversation at a football game about that because someone was saying, I want to run, and I want to run as a Republican, but I just don't like A, B, and C that's going on. And that's understandable, right? Because I voted for Trump 3 times, but then I also can understand certain people's opinion about some of the things that he says, or people in our party who are seen as, quote unquote, the spotlight leaders of our party. So it can be kind of frustrating when you see those type of things on TV or in the, in the limelight. And it's like, well, I don't know that we operate like that, and I like to use Georgia as a good example. Like Governor Kemp has been a very good leader for our party because he's very reasonable and he thinks with a business mind, and he brings that to the way he operates our state. You know what I mean? So that's something that I just try to like emphasize to folks. But
Yeah, I'm really glad that you mentioned that, because that was actually one of the questions I was going to ask you. I guess maybe it's a 2-part one, because I know even on both sides, right, Democrat and Republican, it has parties have evolved tremendously.
Right.
To I don't know what we got going on right now or today, but because I know like even for the Republican Party, it has evolved from like growing up. I grew up I started when I was interested in politics. I was growing up in that Bush Jr. era, right? So for the interest, honestly, for me was like, Condoleezza Rice, like all of that. That was that was my like, I got to get in. This is it. And so to see how it has evolved now, it's kind of like that is not, and not just only for the Republican, but Democrats too. This progressive, it's, and I've also talked to other leaders, that's had very similar sentiments. I'm pretty sure we all have very similar sentiments, right? Especially the people that's in the industry. But I'm also curious from your perspective as a Black Republican woman, what does that mean in 2025, right? You said you voted for Trump 3 times, but what does it mean being a Black Republican in 2025? And beyond the stereotypes, and party lines, like what does that, look like and mean for you?
I think it's a bit different than the first time that Trump ran for office, and maybe even the second time, right? Because he had a really strong initiative for our community on his second run for office, or re-election, shall I say. So it's just a bit different. I think that it's calmed down a little bit of being kind of like a singular item in the party. and we've become just more joined in to all work toward a specific goal. I'll say that. That's kind of how it was this past election cycle when he was running again. It was like, hey, we're not necessarily just looking at it as black people or white people. It's just all Republican Party attempting to get our nominee reelected and getting, the House back and the Senate back as well. 2016, it was like, okay, pedestal though, right? Because Trump has had such a large career in the limelight, right? And I like to tell people, when people say, oh, he racist, and it's like, well, he might say some things that incite a certain feeling, but Trump done been in all the rap videos. He done hung out. Like, that's why I think he gonna get Diddy out of jail. You know what I mean? So it's like, you can't. He the president, girl. What you mean?
Diddy stays behind where he needs to stay behind at.
So I mean, he had an initiative for our community, which was actually very powerful, right? It was there to provide us with capital for businesses, right? And give us different things. It's even with like buying properties, right? He made certain areas have different tax reductions. And so we can invest back into our own communities with buying the properties, buying land, and then rehabbing those areas and making it sustainable. And just bringing it new life, right? So our communities can look better and operate better and bring jobs. And so that was a huge initiative for him. And sometimes right now, like I even think that 2016 initiative that he had and even 2020, it really lines up with like the Black Print, which is the policy issues that the U.S. Black Chamber has out currently. And they speak to a lot of those things with bringing the funds back into our community, and they really empower us. And I think we don't take advantage of that as much as we should. So
I think I'm glad that you mentioned all of what you said, because I think it shows, because I think when, especially in the Black community, right, that's like on the political side, I think when other Black people see Black Republicans, they're like, you a sellout, you're this, you're that. And so I just had to say, I'm glad that I'm getting your perspective. And, because I think it shows, well, one, most Black people, if not all, I don't want to say all, but most Black people typically vote Democrat, but they have very conservative values and traditions, right? I mean, I'm a Black woman from the South, right? Like, I mean, you're also from Cleveland, Ohio. Like, my grandma's from Ohio. And so, I'm pretty sure you're more from the city part. She's more from the country part. But it's still something where it's like when you're having these Thanksgiving conversations, or when you're having conversations behind closed door with family and friends or relatives, like they typically are more, and I think it's not like a new phenomenon, right? Like I've had these conversations plenty of times with anybody. Most Black people, especially older Black people, typically have more conservative values. And so I think voting that way, I don't know where the dissonance happened, or, I don't know if you have a perspective, but I was just saying, like, it's just,
For me, it's probably just more about, well, one, we have to know that the average voter isn't at a high level of intelligence when it comes to policy and issues, right? And so, voters versus just regular citizens that need to still have the same services are two different people as well. So that's one of the factors. And I think that sometimes the fact that the party lacks diversity when it comes to candidates and actual elected officials, that hurts us a bit, right? So right now we have Winsome Sears running for governor. And so that's huge for us because she was lieutenant governor, and she's a Black woman. She's also a Republican. And I think she's a good candidate, and she's a good person to represent us as Black Republicans. And it's not, she has a great, again, like you said, Condoleezza Rice, right? We need to, and those are just women, right? We need more Black men as well. That we have one in Michigan that is elected. He's a House member. And so we have to put those folks on the platform more, because I think when folks see folks that look like them, they'll want to like maybe engage more, right? Because it's like, okay, well, you look like me, so that maybe you can relate to where I am in life and meet me where I am on the conversation, right? Because it's not necessarily, everyone's not going to speak to you at policy level, right? They want to talk about what we call it kitchen table conversations of, hey, these bills. Right. The price of bread and eggs, milk, right? And these are issues that some folks might not even really know about, like even President Trump and his family, because they're from a legacy of wealth, right? So those aren't necessarily the table talk issues that they have. So when you are in your community and you are able to kind of just like meet folks where they are with the conversation, I think that makes a huge difference. And that's something that Democrats have been able to accomplish, because they have a diverse plethora of folks who are elected or trying to be elected, so it just makes it easier for them to capture our vote, especially, Black women. We're the largest voting bloc in that party. And so, but we also have to set the feet to the fire with these folks and say, hey, okay, I've elected you now.
Right. No, you need to.
Where are you?
Right. I think, that's great. I'm glad that you said that, because I think that needs to happen within, no matter who you vote for, whether it's Democrat or Republican. When these are public servants, right? And when you vote for whoever you're voting for, whatever the reasoning is, right? I feel like I always think back to like when we were in high school and someone's running for class president, free lunch for everybody, right? It sounds good. And you're thinking, okay, because there are some things, of course, that the average voter may not understand. Like from a policy standpoint, they can't give you free lunch. That's out of their control, right? But there's accountability of, like, you said you were going to do this thing. Now you need to do this thing, especially because we voted you in, and Black or white, whatever, you need to represent our community, right? Because you have the voters, or you have the people that are like, well, I just know I can't afford eggs right now. And especially with the government shutdown happening as we speak, SNAP benefits are about to, shut off in November, or actually
Saturday.
They will be shut off. And that's going to impact thousands of people, right? Just in the state of Georgia. And it doesn't have a color. It doesn't have a political affiliation either. And I think, when it comes down to it, we kind of get lost in the plot of the back and forth of, well, because I know that's the biggest thing right now. Everybody's pointing the finger at everybody, right? Especially in Congress. And we can go back and forth and debate, who's at fault, who's this and that. But we, at the end of the day, we are no longer going to have benefits, right? Or those people that are impacted by that, which are millions of people in America, are no longer have benefits. And now we have to figure out, how can we make sure people can eat, especially with the holidays coming around the corner?
Well, to tap in on that, right? Sometimes I feel like government benefits are like a drug. It's basically crack, because it has made folks only depend on that way of life. You see some people who've been on SNAP or EBT, even, their housing as well.
Government housing.
And it's for their entire lives. And that wasn't the initial thought process of government when they put that in place. They wanted it to be kind of like a boost up for you, like, hey, let me help you out, and here you are,
get tough.
And then let's move from there, where you learn a skill, or you go and get an education where you can further and put yourself in like a career-based job where you can advance and earn the income to be able to support your family on your own, right? And that empowers our private sector a lot more. And then that kind of like helps with that situation where we're not paying an arm and leg in taxes, because there are so many millions of folks who depend on that just for their livelihood.
Right.
And I think that's kind of where we have the hard time at, because for me, as a contract lobbyist and as a business owner, taxes beating me up.
Okay.
Right? Yeah. And then I see my cousin got on a Rolex, but then she got an EBT card. Right. I was like, oh no.
Yeah.
Oh no.
Yeah.
Wait a minute. Hold on. So we gotta figure how we move forward in our community with that.
I agree. I definitely agree to an extent with that. I also will say, what is the I always will not even combat, but add to that and say, what is the policy issue to where, what is the parameters set in place to where it's not abused, right?
Right.
Like, I think acknowledging assistance, government assistance is necessary and needed for when times do get harder. We do hit, situations in life or a COVID or whatever the case is where people are, or even just recessionary times, right? But where are the parameters that we need to set in place so then it's not a dependence and we can get people back into the workforce? So I also think, to add maybe fuel to the fire, we don't got to get too much into this, but after COVID, when a lot of people lost their jobs due to the fact that it was a national health pandemic, people were on, a lot of people were on unemployment, right?
Yeah.
And a lot of people was getting a lot of money off of unemployment,
Yeah.
to survive. And I get that at the time where it's necessary and people didn't have jobs or they could not work. But what, again, policy initiatives, what are the parameters to set in place, right? I think, do we need to condemn and judge the people that are using it? No, we just need to make sure there's policy. So I know now with the SNAP program, they have kind of changed it how it was in years past to where it's like you have to work or do 20 hours or show some type of...
Georgia.
Oh, that's only for Georgia.
That I know of.
Okay, so
I think those parameters are different for every state.
Okay, got it. That makes sense.
And the federal government provides supplements on top of what the state does.
Got it.
That's what I'm made to believe.
Yeah.
Because I don't know that they do that like in Ohio.
Right.
You know what I mean?
Got it.
So, and I know Texas has really strict parameters.
Okay.
They're a little bit worse than we are when
Yeah.
it comes to benefits, how long, and what you can and can't do.
Yeah.
So, yeah, I mean,
yeah. No, I get that, but I do want to switch gears a little bit because I know you are a contract lobbyist. So I do want you to kind of explain, one, what are the contract lobbyists from your perspective, right? I feel like I say this all the time, but I feel like I lose people. Yeah. So what is a contract lobbyist? What exactly do you do? And just also kind of talk about because with contract lobbying, you have an array of clients, right? That you may deal with people that, as lobbyists, as people, we got to work across the aisle, right? So I'm curious, does that impact you being a Republican? Does that impact, you operating as a contract lobbyist? But, of course, before we can get into that one, I want you to explain what that is.
So contract lobbying is just basically you have, I say, in-house lobbyists, and then you have contracts. So in-house works for a corporation or a big company that can afford it. Even lobbyist firms, too. I mean, or I'll say law office firms mostly. And you guys get the benefits of having a full-time job, which is nice. You know what I mean? And a lot of perks, a lot of travel arrangements. I'm like, oh, y'all go everywhere. Golly. So,
conferences paid for,
I know.
Paid for.
Yeah, I know. Nice conferences, too.
Right.
But you only work on behalf of that company and their issues, like Google, for example. And Google's a big company, so they have contract and in-house lobbyists. So with contract lobbying, we are basically entrepreneurs. So we have to go, what we kill is what we eat.
Yeah.
So we have to go out and get the clients, and that's always a difficult process. From municipalities to private companies, and an array of different agencies in between. We try to get those contracts with those different companies and what they need. A lot of times, private companies really only hire us for session. Nonprofits really only hire us for legislative session. And then, you have some agencies and municipalities like cities, states, counties, they'll hire us, or even like school districts.
Yeah.
They'll hire us all year long to work because they have intergovernmental issues that they face. And so that always helps.
Right. Secure check throughout the
Yeah,
year.
secure check throughout the year.
Yeah.
It's like, all right, cool, I can pay my taxes.
Right.
So that's just kind of the difference, right? I can work on an issue with the airport and with, Google and with Comcast and all these different things, right? So I'll have 6, 7 to 15 bills. I know some people do like 15 bills. I was
Yeah.
like, y'all are
Y'all
crazy.
crazy.
That's crazy work.
It's no way. And I'm like, how are you functioning? I think for me, and it's just me, when I was in the in-house space, I feel like I lost my hustle a little bit.
Okay,
You know,
sure.
and I mean, I hustled a little bit, but it wasn't like, it's different, right? It's a different hustle.
It is.
And when you're on your own, it's like, ooh, like you gotta get that dog back in you.
Yeah.
Yeah, you gotta really like sell yourself
Yeah.
and really put yourself out there and continue to build relationships and not off of the strength of I work for this large company corporation, right? You got to be off the strength of, no, like my skills and this is what I've done and this is what I've accomplished, right? Merit. And I mean, and not saying that's not the case for in-house, right? Like you still have to have some kind of credibility.
Of course.
Right? But it is a little, I think for me, it was a little bit easier to kind of hide behind the companies that I worked for, to be like, yeah, I worked for so-and-so, I worked for this. And I'm like, oh, okay, so it makes the interactions with people you may not know or don't have a relationship with a lot easier, or
Right.
you know, to where it's just like, oh yeah, like, you know, like, oh, okay, so the guard is down a little bit. You still got to get past, you know, the wall, but you know, it's not as built up compared to like, I'm so-and-so, I work for here. And they're like, I don't know what that is, I don't know who you are, you know, that kind of thing. And so I definitely think for me it was humbling, which not a bad thing. I needed that. But it definitely gave me put the dog back in me. I always had it. I just had to bring her out because, you know, she was a house dog. She was domesticated.
Yes. Very cute.
Yeah, it was very cute.
You know, it's easier to say, I work for Georgia Power. Let me get an appointment with the governor. And they'd be like, oh, okay, cool.
Right.
Like, you know, well, who do you work for? Like,
Yeah,
like,
exactly.
Okay.
So, I'm really glad that you broke that down and explained that. And I still feel people gonna be like, what? What is that?
Yeah, I know.
But no, that was a perfect way of explaining, you know, what a contract lobbyist is. But I know, like, my mentor always told me, and most people told me too, and that's kind of why I was asking you, do you feel like your political affiliation interferes with like that? But it's really, I thought back, I'm like, it really shouldn't, because no one really should know how you vote, right? If a good lobbyist, like, they always say a good lobbyist, you should never know how a person votes.
Right.
You should never know what their political affiliation is, because you need to be able to be in every room, talk to every person, no matter how conservative they are, no matter how liberal they are, progressive they are. I think as lobbyists, honestly, the personal really doesn't matter.
Right.
Like, because at the end of the day, it's business, right? So I think we have that skill set that most people don't have, is to be able to have conversations with someone, and I don't agree with you at all, right? I don't even like you, right? You know, but at the end of the day, I have to work with you.
Yeah.
So you learn to be able to emotionally temper yourself, right? Build up the skill set to be able to communicate and build relationships with anybody, but also find that commonality too, right? So that you can find, you know, something where he's like, actually, you know, I don't agree with you on certain policy initiatives, but you're a cool person. Like, we all don't agree, but we still go out for drinks. Yeah. We still be at the conferences cutting up. Yeah. You know what I'm saying? So I do love that portion of our job, is that we're able to be in all spaces and not allow, if you're a good lobbyist, not allow the personal to impact the business and the work that you're supposed to be doing, which is to, if your contract, work on, you know, on behalf of your client, right? And if you're in-house, still work on behalf of that company or corporation or nonprofit organization, right? And that's really just what it is. So
I've brought, you know, again, some of my outside skills to this, and I like to just get to know folks, right? So elected people, I try to treat them as friends and family, and we hang out outside of session. You know, I come to their homes, or we go out to dinner, lunches, and just kick it. Concerts or whatever they like to do, you know, play golf, different things like that, and just get to know each other. All of them, you know, not just the Republicans or whatever. It's like, okay, you know, I like some Dems a lot more than I like some of the Republicans, actually. So, because, you know, they're like, if he ain't young boy, I was like, you know what, I like him too. You know, so so that is how I'm able to kind of like put my voting aside, or even just my past experiences on working in the party, right? Because people know that about me. Most people do. I say that. like I've gotten to know a lot of Democrats, especially like in leadership, become really cool with them, and they're like, "You a Republican?" And I'm like, "Come on, man, keep it down.
Keep it down.
Keep it down. Like, they ain't gonna do that right here."
Right. Oh, loud. Be loud too with it too. Like, come on,
So like, all right. So the fact that they don't know, what party, and it's like, okay, cool, I did good on that. And so it's just like, you like me for the person that I am, and I'm just here to talk about my client's issue and get your take on it and figure out how we can meet in the middle on the issue.
Right.
So that's where, just having that personal development with folks and getting to know them and just, again, meeting them where they are on conversations and not always make it about work. Because that's why people pay us, because we have those relationships. Right. And you can't develop that relationship if it's only about politics.
Right.
Or only about party.
Absolutely.
It's like we're humans, right? So it's like no matter what color you are or what faith.
Right.
We're humans.
We're human.
And so, like, humans like most of the same thing.
Right.
I can even get down with listening to a little Taylor Swift.
Right.
So, it's like, hey, let me tap in and see what you like.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? So, that part right there has helped a lot, just to be able to do that. And that's, like, cleared the path for a lot of things, because we have clients, again, that are, like, more on one side than the other. On both ends of the spectrum. And so, you got to be able to just do that and roll with the tide when it comes like that.
Yeah, it's really learning to be malleable in those spaces, right? And also, too, I love how you talked about the human experience, right? We're people at the end of the day. And that's why I always say, and I feel like I mentioned this in previous episodes when on rants, because I'll just be like, y'all, we are losing the plot. Like, we have lost the sauce, and we're just so focused, or we're judging on who do you, like, now I've seen, like, some videos. I think I've seen a video, it was a comedy club. You're at a comedy club, and, like, the girl on the comedian on stage was like, I don't know why she opened up for questions at the end of her set. That was the dumbest thing she probably could have did, for one. Sure. Right. But two, one of the people, hecklers, they call them, it's like, who did you vote for? And it's like, why is that relevant? You're at a comedy show. Yeah. Enjoy the comedy show. Yeah. And I just feel like, we have gotten so, especially in this political climate, it's really strained right now on both sides. And I just feel like, y'all, like, we have lost the human experience to just get to know people as a human, no matter who they voted for, no matter what their skin, like, we got to get past that and just remember to connect. And I think as lobbyists, that's a skill set that we're able to, I guess maybe now a privilege that we're able to have in this climate. So we're able to have conversations. We're able to look at things in typically a non-biased, or a neutral space, right? And able to put our personal feelings in the back burner to be able to just get to the root of, okay, well, what's the issue? What is the actual thing that we need to, like, solution-based thinkers, right? How are we going to get to solve the problem? Because that's the end goal, right? And we know we're gonna need other people to get there. Right. Like, we can't do it by ourselves.
Or just count those votes.
We gotta count those votes, right? And those votes are on both sides. Right. And so I know personally, I feel like that's why we're always at the standstill, because we have gotten so extreme with on the sides, like, back in the day, everybody used to be in the middle, right? Or, and it was the outlier people that was over here and over here. Those are the extremists, terroristic thoughts. But now it's like everybody has shifted this way. And it's like, that's not how we get stuff done.
No, it's not.
And it's a little frustrating. I know, I don't know if it's frustrating for you, but I know for me it's frustrating, because I'm just like, y'all, like, can we just get something done?
It's become more of a theater.
Yeah, so, it's very like, it's very like shit, like camera. I mean, I know this is like lights and cameras, but it's very like, I'm gonna put on, that camera cut on, I'm gonna cut up, and you're just like, stop, please. You're embarrassing me. Like, I'm getting secondhand embarrassing right now. Like, the propaganda, it's just too much. So, but I'm really glad you mentioned that, because I feel like I've been saying it. I'm like, maybe people need to hear from someone else. Like, it's a human thing. And that's my strategy, too, when I build relationships and connect people. I always use the example, when it comes to building a relationship, I was like, hey, if I don't, like, we say we just met, right? And I ask you for $20. You gonna look at me like, who's this girl asking me for $20 for? I don't know her, right? You may or may not give it to me. You may be related, like, what the heck? But if we, over the years or over the months, I'm reaching out to you, we hang out, we're going to lunch, we're going to dinner. I'm like, how your family? How, we're hanging out. And then I ask you, hey, Deanna, I need $20. You may be a little more inclined to give me that $20, right? Because we have built a relationship. And so that's how I always kind of break it down to people. People are like, oh, yeah. And I'm like, it's that in everyday life.
Right.
You can't ask for like, hey, I need you to vote yes on this bill. I need you to actually kill this bill.
Right.
And they're going to look at you like, why? Right. Why? I don't know you. Yeah. Right. But like if outside of session, right, it's sometimes playing the long game. Right, if I'm going to your house, I'm going to that Taylor Swift concert with you, whatever the case is. Yeah. We go to a Braves game. Now, when I'm like, hey, I need you to vote yes on this bill. They be like, I got you, So I'm really glad you mentioned that. But I would just kind of say, wrapping up towards the last question, because we've had a lot of good conversation. I think we've talked about a lot, and I'm really glad for your perspective on it. I would just say the last thing is, what are your thoughts, on the future of the Republican Party, right? Like you're really do you have any thoughts of the future of the Republican Party of 2025, but also just moving forward as we're transitioning into the new year and beyond in this administration?
Evolved. Yeah. Since I first got started, it has evolved like crazy, right? When I first got started, these were people who were dedicated to politics, and this is where their interests were. They were very conservative. And then, of course, the Trump era occurred. Mm-hmm. Now, mind you, I love my president.
Yeah.
But the Trump era occurred. So he brought out people that have never been involved in any type of politics, and then they're just... Yeah. They've become the know-it-alls of politics. Yeah. And it was like, okay, come on, Billy, you're a plumber.
Yeah.
Stop it. It's like,
this is not you.
You don't know what's going on here. Stop doing that. So that's a good thing and a bad thing, right? It's made citizens become more involved, mm-hmm. which is always what the ideal thing is for government. But then it's also not that good because they're not necessarily reading and coming to an understanding of how the process works mm-hmm. on different levels. Like the federal process is a lot different than your local mm-hmm. process, right? Your city council's budget, your county commission's budget, mm-hmm. your state budget versus the federal budget, right? Where we're at a standstill on. Right. So all of those processes are different and require different pieces working together. Mm-hmm. And I just don't think that your average citizen understands that because they haven't really read and done the research and went down the rabbit hole to figure it out because mm-hmm. it is very difficult.
Yeah.
I'm still learning myself every day on the best way to get some money out of the government.
Okay. That would be the hardest feat. No matter what you affiliate, that'd be the hardest. Nobody want to give no dollar.
Appropriations asks are very difficult.
It's hard.
You are the strongest
soldiers out there.
For real. Let me tell you something. I commend every lobbyist.
No limit soldiers.
Okay. I'm getting my, what I'm saying? Doing my Master P out here. Like, okay, because, man. So, just that information alone on how just so many random people have joined and got involved, but they're not, they don't understand. So that's changed things. And I just think that life's transition anyways, right? There's always going to be something different happening. So it might go back to the way it used to be. It might get worse.
Yeah, right.
So... And you just have to be able to roll with the punches and figure it out and navigate and find the normalcy inside of what you're living in, right? So there's always shelter inside the fire. Yeah. But I don't mind it. I like to watch. It's again, like you said, it's theatrical. So I was like, oh man, what's gonna happen today?
What's gonna happen today?
So it's like, gosh.
Cut the TV on like it's reality TV.
Yeah. Sometimes I get tired of it. And I was like, all right, I'll take a break.
Yeah.
Just be normal. Talk to the.
It's necessary to take breaks away from it,
Talk to the regular folks and the local folks.
Touch grass.
Yeah, touch grass.
Right.
For sure. So you gotta touch grass all the time in our industry.
Absolutely.
So I don't necessarily care, and it doesn't. I don't think that it makes my business sway a different way based on that, right? I try to keep a stable foundation on what we provide for our clients, because that's the most important thing, is getting these local and state issues done, or even halfway done, right? Sometimes I can't complete it all the way, but even coming to a middle ground for them is always an accomplishment. And so, to keep my bills paid, so I'm entertained by the party situation, but I don't necessarily ever pull in an opinion, because again, like, it's staying where it is gets more people involved. Yeah. And so I don't know that that's a bad thing. Yeah. Now the people who might be involved is like,
a lot. Yeah.
Maybe we could get somebody else.
Somebody else. Right.
But,
for both sides. Yeah.
For both sides.
Yeah, absolutely.
But it's just something to watch, something to see.
Yeah.
But hopefully it, again, like I said, it'll transition and the wave will settle a little bit. And we'll just go back to a normalcy, and then it'll tune back up.
Right. Like, hit a little dip there.
A little roller coaster is what it's become. So I can appreciate it.
Yeah. I'm really glad that you said all of that. I'm also glad that you mentioned the part about, regardless of any of that, no matter how the party goes or sways, that it's not going to influence or change how I operate in my business, right? And that's what just makes, I think, you a good lobbyist, and just good at your job, of course. I respect my peers and my friends in this space, especially the Black people in this space. I know we have difference of opinions and perspectives, but I think that's what makes us great, right? Is that we're able to bring those different perspectives and opinions and experiences into the space, right? And even to our personal conversations with one another. And we're able to brainstorm, or we're able to just have those, hash outs and be like, nah, bro, this is how I feel, this is how you feel, whatever. But we're also able to come together, TNDC Thursday, get together, have, some happy hours, some food, and connect and still get the stuff done. And I think
that's my favorite part.
I know, and that's the important part of it.
But you'd be surprised. I mean, like, Georgia has the largest Black caucus.
Absolutely.
And our lobbyists are only maybe like 0.5% of the population of lobbyists in Georgia. So, we got to stick together.
Yeah, absolutely.
It's only a few of me's where we, Republican lobbyists, but lots of you guys, and I appreciate your insights and opinions, and sometimes people get angry, and I'm like, all right, I'm sorry. You want a shot?
Right. So, shot o'clock.
Shot o'clock,
right.
That always helps.
Tequila helps. No, I'm really glad that you said all that. And like I said, I'm really thankful for you and your insights and your perspective and your leadership in this space, right? And also it showcases that Black people, one, are not a monolith, and two, we are diverse in how we think and how we operate, how we process, and just how we show up. And what that and how we show up in advocacy work, right? Advocacy looks different for everybody, and getting involved looks different for everybody. And so I can agree, some people get involved, but maybe, Billy, you're the plumber, right? Yeah. So but I think, that's the beauty of advocacy work and the work that we do. So definitely glad that you were able to come onto the podcast. Thank you so much. I wish we had a little more time, because I feel like I could get into it with you. Because I wanted to ask you one question, but maybe off camera. But no, thank you so much, Deanna, for coming on. Your insights, your perspectives was absolutely amazing, and I hope that my audience was able to get something out of it. I'm pretty sure they did, because I learned a lot. No, thank you. I really appreciate you. Yay. All right. Some people might be too young for that. That's a Bring It On reference. But no, thank you so much for coming on. I appreciate you.
Thank you for having me. Yes, so excited.
Yes.
I'm coming back season 2.
Absolutely. Because we're going to get into it. And season 2, I'm going to come at you not as cute. This is a little startup. You're going to be like, okay, this is cute. Season 2, y'all, we're going to get into the real conversations. But no, thank you so much. And thank y'all again for joining Please remember to like, comment, subscribe. And if you have any questions, engage. I want you to engage with this episode when we post it. It's going to be amazing. Again, thank you so much, and we'll talk soon. Bye.